Many a time before now, hardly a day will pass that we will not stand for a minute silence, either for victims of violences across the country or perhaps some of our fallen heroes, those who have paid the rare supreme price, those who have been awakened all days long for all of us to sleep. The situation on ground, did it start today? No, we must admit. Should we take responsibilities as people in government today? Yes, we must admit. Because there is no matter of saying, I inherited this. Yes, we got it, and we have to confront it with all levels of tactical. In safety parlance, there are 3 strategies when a nation, an individual, even an organization is faced with risk as that of ours. It is about elimination, it's about mitigation, and about control. Unfortunately, in the years past, we have unavoidably crossed the elimination stage. So unfortunate. Even the mitigation stage, we have crossed it. We are now faced with the control measure. So unfortunate, which is the 3rd layer and 3rd level of security risk. And that is why we are in this situation today.
With deep sense of responsibility for all Nigerians, and of course, especially our women and children, I rise not just as a member of this hallowed chamber, but as a mother, a woman, and the chairperson of the House Committee on Women Affairs and Social Development. Yesterday, one of our leaders in his presentation asked, are we going to wait until our children are kidnapped? And I asked myself, the children that were kidnapped are, of course, our children. And we have to see that any Nigerian killed, caused injury, or traumatized is our own, because we represent them. The reality we confront today is not a distant episode in our national conversation. It is a deep and bleeding wound in the lives of our children, our families, and our communities. And I term the Papiri and Kamba abductions as a national tragedy. We are facing severe insecurity crises. Let me be clear, these are not mere security failures. They are breaches of the most fundamental duties of the state, which is the security of lives and properties. And like I've always asked when we have security issues, we need our governors to do more. The president cannot be everywhere. He cannot be in Sokoto, he cannot be in Zamfara, he cannot be in Ogun State. He cannot even be in Lagos State, his own state. We need our governors to do more. And this is the right time for us as a house to legislate on the right legal framework on our state policing. As politicians, we say every politics is local. For me, I may not be a security expert, but I know that every security is local.
Speak to the sovereignty of this country, of which we have gradually lost. As a child, I can beat my chest today that I'll be one of the few here standing that saw war as a child. What is happening in Nigeria today, especially in the north, Nigeria is at war. We must call it that. We must wage what is happening in the north. Confront it as we are fighting war. I want to speak, Mr. Speaker, on Nigeria as a sovereign nation. The news of the capture of this and summary execution of Brigadier General M. Oba by Aswad really broke my mind. Back to where we stopped. If terrorism can move freely, terrorists can move freely like this, what is sovereign about Nigeria? Some people were shouting Nigeria is a sovereign nation. We don't need America. We don't need anyone. But Nigeria went to Congo. Nigeria went to Liberia through ECOMOG to help them out. We need help this time. Even if it's coming from Mali, from Chad, from Burkina Faso, we need help. Our children are being molested in the north. Our girls are being molested in the north. We were refugees during Nigerian Biafran War. As a child, I know how my parents suffered to keep me alive for that 3 years. But let us tell ourselves the truth. What kind of sovereignty allows terrorists to capture and kill a whole general like a common criminal? Because if terrorists can cross our borders at will, enter our villages at will, ambush military convoys at will, take entire towns at will, and now capture a brigadier general, then what exactly are we protecting with this so-called sovereignty? Is this sovereignty when terrorists are the ones controlling forests, highways, and communities? Is this sovereignty when commanders are killed and everyone stays silent, and our children out of school? We opposed the US when they wanted to help Nigeria destroy terrorists. We shouted, don't interfere, don't touch our sovereignty. But what is left is to protect when terrorists already operate like a government inside a government. A country that cannot secure its land is not sovereign, it is vulnerable.
The budget we made last year, almost 30% of the budget, almost 30% is supposed to be for security. If there are releases and there are proper execution of what was supposed to, I think we might have some problem. I want to believe that there's need to scrutinize this budget, and I'm also recommending, sir, apart from what we are doing, that there is need to call the service chiefs for us to go into executive session, discuss this matter, because not all the things we are supposed to say can be said outside. There is need for the House to call the service chiefs. There's need for the House leadership after this one to interface with the Mr. President to ensure our recommendations do not go. Do not forget, sir, in the 9th Assembly we had security summit. Recommendations were made, but what has come out of it? Nothing. Where you neglect the advice of your own intelligence. It's important that we take them serious. It's important. As far as I'm concerned, if we are taking the security intelligence reports seriously, the crisis in Plateau State and other places may not have taken place. The last is about our judicial system. Why will you arrest somebody with criminality, keep him, and you'll be there for 1, 2, 3 years, 10 years? There is no judgment. This we also have to look at. Is it about the laws? Is it about the provision in the Constitution? This is an area that we need to amend. Sir, I do not believe that we need to negotiate with criminals. I do not believe that there's need to allow those criminals outside for what is being done. We are seeing. Why will criminals come to town to a wedding with guns in convoy, and we have the security in this country?
Issue of insecurity has been one matter that you cannot say is overflogged, overemphasized. Some persons will tell you we are not even talking about it enough. The state of emergency recently declared by Mr. President has elicited a lot of reactions, with some people applauding the actions of Mr. President and some persons saying it ought to have come earlier. This morning, we are discussing the issue of state of emergency on insecurity. We'll look at every variable on the table and how this will pan out. Will it solve the problem? Will it give Nigerians a sense of safety that we're all looking for? Joining us this morning, I don't know if to call him attorney, doctor, because of course he keeps improving himself in every aspect. But allow me to call him Dr. Archibong Mendie. I would have called you attorney before, but let's leave it on Dr. Archibong Mendie. It's great to have you. Legal practitioner, public affairs analyst, joins us this morning. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so very much, Ike. It's always a pleasure. And Jennifer, thank you so very much. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to come back home. This is where I consider to be home. In terms of the level of analysis, in terms of the level of response that we do get from the viewers, and in terms of the impact that we do have when we speak on this channel. I'm not affiliated to the channel, but I do observe the impact that we do have on the generality of Nigeria. So it's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Now, let's hit the ground running. You've been following trends and following the issues lately. Insecurity has taken over every conversation in this country. There are other things going on, but every single thing, every day, mainstream, social media, everywhere, everyone is talking about insecurity. First off, I'll ask you your thoughts about it before we talk about the state of emergency declared by Mr. President. What are your thoughts about the state of the country right now as a citizen?
Well, one of the first things is it seems like we in a different part of the country are disconnected to what is happening in the other parts of the country. But the insecurity is actually nationwide, but the impact is not felt nationwide to the same degree that other parts feel it. The middle belt, the northern part as well, it's not west, the central part, and then the middle belt, and then coming down some parts of the southeast and some part of the south to a great level, and thankfully and mercifully so. We in Akwa Ibom State and maybe some other states are, well, to a certain extent insulated. But when you hear of the kidnappings, the abductions, the banditry, the Islamic terrorism that is happening in other parts of the world, the alleged Christian genocide that is taking place, the rape, the murder, and the dislocation of people in different parts of Nigeria, it just sends tremors of fears and the symptoms of the unknown in all of us. There is no one that is impervious to this insecurity that is happening all around us. I've had close friends who have lost families. I had a friend in Kaduna whose father was abducted. The mother went to search for him, and she was abducted as well. The brother went and he was abducted as well, all from the farm, so they can't get into the farms anymore. They are no longer farming, and that's all that they've known all of their lives. Now, so whatever that we are experiencing and seeing in the Federation of Nigeria right now in terms of insecurity is impacting every one of us to a certain degree. And, we have to talk about it to a certain extent. I don't know how to put it in English succinctly, but that simply means once you have life, you'll be able to put on a necklace on your neck. But once the life is gone, that's the end of the story. I'll tell you an example now. The National Guards, 2 of them that were shot in Washington, D.C., there was a lot of hope, there were a lot of prayers, a lot of talk as to what will happen in regards to the well-being of these National Guards. But one of them, Sarah Beckstrom, sadly passed away. Once she passed away, I noticed that she was moved from the hospital immediately to the office of the chief medical examiner. That's it, to be dissected and established how she died and why she died. We all know how she died. She was shot, but it has to be done. So that's the end of that story. So you transfer it back to Nigeria now. When someone is kidnapped, like the pastor, the bishop in the northern part of Nigeria that was kidnapped with his wife, and then his life was ended, that's the end of the story for him. And it's so sad because after the loss of life, there is really nothing you can do. Even if you give the family ₦1 million, it cannot compensate for the loss of life. Where there is life, there is hope. Where there is hope, there is bound to be some level of growth. And hopefully, the government of Nigeria has awakened to a certain level of degree where we will begin to fight this insecurity. And the fight is not for the government alone. There is no government that can fight this kind of insecurity by itself. It has to be that the government is able to ginger up the people, to raise the morale of the people, raise the morale of the armed forces, raise the morale of the police, the civil defense, every force that we do have in Nigeria. Speak to the people and encourage them to keep going. And then we will back the government and even step to the front. That's where we have the civilian joint force that is actually very effective in fighting against the banditry that is happening in the northern part of Nigeria. To a great extent, we have an ideological war, right? Well, the ideological war is not hidden. There is Islamic terrorists that are attacking people. some euphemistically refer to them as bandits or refer to the actions as banditry. But we all know what it really is. We need to actually raise the morale of the people to find out why they are joining this level of fight against the Federation of Nigeria and what can be done to curb this menace that is affecting everybody in the Federation of Nigeria.
Okay, and we have another guest joining us virtually from Abuja. He's a security expert. Talking about Dr. David Okorroh. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, Doctor. Okay.
All right, we'll establish contact. We seem to have lost them there. We'll have Dr. David Okorroh, security expert, join us. Let's come back to Jennifer on that note.
I'd like to take you up on the legal aspect of all of this discussion on insecurity, and recently the declaration by the president on state of emergency on insecurity, security. And then there's also the talk about employment of recruitment into the police, into the army, and every other sector to level up, boost them up, and ensure that they can tackle insecurity head on. But then there's the talk of infiltration in the army and in other security agencies. Legally speaking, this infiltration, we've had talks from back in the days linking back to the previous administration of reintegrating repented bandits into the army. Isn't this some sort of legally wrong to start with?
Well, it absolutely is. You have to punish people who have committed crimes in the society. That's why we have criminal law. You forgive people after punishment, right? They've paid their debt to the society. You cannot tell someone who has killed, who has maimed, who has raped, who has dislocated people from their primary residence that, hey, sorry, come along. You are sorry? Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, come along, we forgive you. And then you house them, not just house them, but you bring them into the military. Not just bring them into the military. You arm them, not just arm them. You promote them, not just promote them. You send them to the war front against their brothers and expose those that are genuinely fighting against this the killing of Nigerians to them. As you go into the battlefront, you want to know that the person behind you, beside you, and in front of you is somebody that you can depend on and rely on. The person behind you will be supplying you with bullets and replace your gun if it jams and becomes ineffective. The person in front of you is not going to stand aside and point out to the enemy that there he is, which some have
Dr. Mendie, you must forgive me at this juncture. We seem to have established contact with our guest, Dr. David Okorroh, a security expert that we try to get across to. Dr. David, good morning. You're welcome. Dr. David, let's bring you into the conversation. The last time we spoke to you, we spoke about the issue of insecurity, and yet again we find ourselves needing your expertise. First off, there are issues on the table. As an expert, I'd like for you to speak to us on the declaration of a state of emergency by Mr. President. What does that entail?
Now be deployed to the area of securing Nigeria. That's what it means. Priority attention will be given to security issues, and the security agencies have now decided to you have them having 4 or 5 policemen around them when they go around. You see people like Cubana, people like this having as many as all over. If you have some little money, police will give you men. Even Yahoo boys get police protection and all that. So now it says bring back all these men to do policing work and recruit another 30,000 policemen, and all that. So it means that government is deploying more resources to address the issues of insecurity. Okay. My only challenge with this, hello?
Yeah,
go on,
Dr. David.
Yes.
On this particular issue, is it about just getting the funds, recruiting more people, or this is supposed to be about strategy?
About what?
Strategy. Is it just about more funds or more recruitment, or is just about strategy?
No. You need in designing your strategy, you need to know what resource you have. That's the issue about strategy. Strategy is built on the back of the problem, your understanding of the problem, and then the resources that you have to address it. So you now build your strategy around your manpower, you build your strategy around the technology you have, you build your strategy around the equipment that you have. You build a strategy around the peculiar nature of the problem you have and the environment in which that problem exists. So you put all this together as ingredient in the pottery, and then you decide what kind of strategy then you want to adopt. That's how it works. So it's not just strategy; it also has to do with the resources that you have actually.
All right,
Okay,
Dr. David, just to hold your thought for a moment there, let's come to our guests in the studio. I'll come back to you now in a bit. Dr. Mendie, I'd like to ask you, the Senate deliberated recently on one aspect that many Nigerians have been talking about, and that is the issue of negotiations with these elements. And as it stands right now, action has been taken forbidding negotiations. Legally speaking, is that even achievable? And what are your thoughts on that action, especially in the wake of all that's going on in the country?
Well, when the other person is the one that is being kidnapped, we espouse the ideals of non-negotiation. When our kings are kidnapped, we espouse the ideals of negotiation because we want our king to come back with life, right? But generally, if you negotiate with the terrorists, there is nothing wrong with that. America does negotiate with terrorists. They talk to terrorists. But
they've said many times that they do not.
They do. They negotiated with Taliban. They negotiated in the withdrawal of Afghanistan. They are right now negotiating with the terrorists in Syria. They've negotiated with Hamas. It does not mean that you do not use force to achieve your goal. But it just means to say, is there a common goal? Can we have a common goal? Israel negotiates with Hamas. Remember the return of Gulit, the Israeli soldier years ago that was returned to Israel based on negotiation. So the danger is when you move from negotiation into the payment for the release of people. That is a problem. But here, we have to understand that it's very, very tricky and dicey. When you make payments to terrorists, you embolden them, you strengthen them, and you invite others to join terrorism. And not just that, you now have people that are ideological in their actions, and now you have people that are business and commercial thinking in their action. Now you have two factions, okay? The ideological faction will continue with the fight. The commercial faction says, hey, I have a business opportunity here. And that is the danger. In Nigeria, there is a law against payment for ransom to terrorists or kidnappers. No one has been able to establish that the kidnappers were paid in any instance by the government for the release of those that were released from the CSC church and the school girls that were abducted. We are generally happy that they were recovered, right? But we are troubled that no one has been arrested, that no one is facing prosecution, and that the land that has been taken and established and dominated by the terrorists still has been taken, established, and dominated by the terrorists today.
Okay, Dr. David, this one we want to understand from a security angle. what negotiation really means when we're talking of insecurity issues of this nature. Like we recently read from one of the papers that the military had to negotiate with allegedly negotiate with these bandits for release of some of the schoolgirls. What do we mean by negotiation in this stance?
Okay, so I was making some interventions before you went to the other guest earlier. I was saying that what the president have done in declaring a state of emergency is beautiful, but the state of emergency will not achieve its purpose because the fundamental issues that result or that causes the insecurity we have to be addressed, and they are not being addressed. I'll give you an example. See, the violence you see all over the country is caused by two things. One, the open grazing, the fact that Fulani herdsmen are allowed to move from one location to the other heavily armed. So because of open grazing, they hide behind the cows and the open grazing, what they allow, the space open grazing gives them to move from one community to the other, thereby causing so much violence and death and kidnapping. So number one thing that you need to stop, if you want to address insecurity, is to stop open grazing. So we should call on the president that he should do is make his level best to stop open grazing. What he said in that speech, in declaring this
state of emergency.
Yeah, is to say that he urges those who own cattle
to lay down their arms.
Good. That's the second point I'm going to. He say he urges them. Do you urge criminals to lay down their arms, or you force them to lay down their arms? How do you say you are telling armed robbers, you are urging armed robbers to lay down their arms, or you are urging bandits to lay down their arms? You compel them. You take steps. During Buhari time, even though he didn't really mean it, he said to the military, if you go to the bush and you find people that are armed and are not supposed to be armed, kill them, take them out. So this president, it is not just to say you are recruiting more policemen or more military. The cause of the problem, the cause of the security problem, not the death, it is just two things. The fact that herdsmen, armed herdsmen, that are militias, they hide behind the cattle, the heads, that they should stop moving around from one location to the other with cattle. That's number one. Ban open grazing. Everybody say to the president, what we need is ban open grazing. The second is to prohibit the Fulani militias from bearing arms. All of us, me and you, are by law not allowed to bear arms. Why should the Fulani militia be allowed to bear arms, and all the president is telling them is that he urges them? Where do you urge criminals to lay down the arm of violence? Anywhere in the world, people are not allowed to carry arms. So in Nigeria, why should me and you be asked not to carry arms, but Fulani herdsmen are urged not to carry arms? The law says I can't carry arms, you can't carry arms. Why can't we apply the same? So the two things that will bring down the heat of insecurity is one, ban open grazing. Number two, compel the Fulani militia and Fulani herdsmen from bearing arms. That's all. When you do these two things, our problem is 70% solved. That is when you are recruiting more police to be efficient. That is where you are recruiting more military to be efficient. But as long as these guys can be armed, they can go and move from one location to the other. They're just wasting your time.
All right, Dr. David.
But before I leave this, because you asked about what negotiation is.
Yes, please.
And I tried to explain to you during the last program that in the South, we see these criminals as bandits. But in the northern part of Nigeria, these people they say that these people we call bandits are their brothers, and their sisters, and their uncles, and their fathers. Right? You call them bandits, but here in the north, some people, including the elite, say that they are our brothers and sisters, they are Nigerians, so they shouldn't be killed. Therefore, how they should be treated, they say this is their own approach, their own strategy, which they have raised to national policy, security policy level, including the office of the NSA, saying people should negotiate. Negotiation simply means when people are taken, like that, those girls, you come to the bandits on your knees, plead with them, I want you to release these kids, and then you negotiate. How much are you going to give us? Give us 5 billion. and give us 20 motorbike, give us food, give us clothes, give us all these things. When you give us these things, we will release these girls. That is what it all means. So you give them money, they go back, they're able to recruit more people. They go back, they're able to buy more equipment. They go back, they're able to resource more. They go back, they have all they need to be able to operate. So you compound the problem when you follow this kind of crooked means, they say, and they call it non-kinetic means. Non-kinetic means you are not using gun and bullet. You are using other means. So they now have raised this non-kinetic means to the level that you are negotiating with bandits and you are paying them.
Dr. David, forgive me, just hold that thought there. I want to come to Dr. Mendie. Two things Dr. David said, which I'd like to ask your thoughts. You might want to bring the legal perspective to it. Dr. David spoke about banning open grazing. He also spoke about arms. And I recall some people already saying, in the wake of what's going on in the country, perhaps the government should begin to look in the way of legalizing firearms so that Nigerians can be able to defend themselves. I mean, Bode Rolls Viva, the Labour Party candidate of 2023 elections for governorship, had advocated this position. He's not the very first person advocating this position, asking that arms be legalized so that Nigerians can defend themselves. Let's look at the score vis-a-vis the banning of open grazing, as that in itself can curb the rise in insecurity.
I think one of the ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and a minister in the cabinet of Tinubu did talk about ending open grazing, and that we no longer.
But they came back to say that was not what they meant.
Well, at least that conversation is out there, right? And in Archibong State, we've banned open grazing, right? Even myself, I had a car accident with a cow on the road. I almost lost my life just about a month ago. The issue is not just banning it. The issue is actually enforcing it, okay? That's the issue. Who doesn't know that walking along the road with cows and entering into another person's farm and land is wrong? I think we all do know that, right? There are adequate laws on the book to establish that open grazing is illegal and it should come to an end. And then to your second point of allowing every citizen to
bear arms
is absolutely wrong. I disagree with it. Well, have we been able to stop the violence in the United States? Look at the level of violence in the United States. I mean, if you get to the United States, you can buy arms. You can buy any kind of submachine gun that you want. You can buy submachine gun pistols. You can with any kind of rounds that you want. The only thing you cannot buy really is an armored tank and a warplane in the United States. Have they been able to establish a peaceful environment? No. That is just the wrong way to go. That's one school of thought. The fact that the security apparatus has failed, a lot of people it has failed. I mean, come on. If you hear the cries of people who let's just forget about the middle belt, let's forget about the north, let's talk about criminality, right? About 2 months ago, we lost a member of the community in terms of broadcasting. She was in a home, right? From a Rise television. She was in her home. Her house, her building was invaded by armed robbers, right? And in order, allegedly,
to escape, she had to jump.
So if we had a simple, easy number, like in other developed and developing countries, 911 or 999, that we could call and they would come full force to save us, she wouldn't have had the need to jump. She would have just waited for the police force to come and rescue her. So to that extent, the security infrastructure has failed. We can't even talk about the security infrastructure in the Middle Belt. Has it worked? Many communities actually say that they sent out a distress call to the military, to the police, to the civil defense force, but no one came to their rescue. So it has failed. So that makes people say, okay, if you cannot come and defend us, then give us the arms to defend ourselves.
But is that call not justified in the wake of what's going on?
When you put arms in the hands of people in a country, okay, you are going to have the unexpected come into play. And that unexpected is you are also going to arm criminals, right? You are going to arm these bandits or Islamic terrorists as well. So the singular thing to do is to reduce the level of arms in the country, make sure that the state is able to establish itself as the primary source of violence. If the state cannot establish itself as the primary and dominating force of violence in a country, it has lost.
But I'm sure you have heard of the acronym Mutually Assured Destruction, MAD. And that means that a criminal who knows that you're armed and he's coming with arm will be cautious. That is why you have MAD.
It never stopped the Afghans from fighting in their land, right? And that mutual assured destruction is only at the national level, extraterritorial level. So you have Russia pointing its weapons of its nuclear arm tips at America, America pointing those nuclear arm tips at Russia. And they both understand, if you shoot, I will shoot, and we will both be destroyed. So now they are talking. And what has it led to? Reduction in the arms. The treaty that says you reduce your nuclear arms and I'll reduce my nuclear arms. So it just does not work. Let us build up the security infrastructure. Let us remove all these quote-unquote repentant Boko Haram. Let us remove all these Boko Haram sympathizers. Remove them and try them. The Boko Haram sympathizers that are in government should be removed and tried. Right from Goodluck Jonathan, he did make a complaint that Boko Haram is even in his government, is even in the ministries. He made that complaint. Well, why do you think a whole general, a one-star general, to reach the rank of a general is not easy? Look, you move from colonel to general, and that move, that leap from colonel to general is a gulf. It's huge. It's big for you to become a one-star general. Why would the Boko Haram or bandits or Islamic terrorists have access to a general? Imagine capturing a general and then executing the general and nothing has happened. That is the worst that can happen to a military anywhere in the world. It just doesn't happen. You can hear that a general has been shot, but to capture a general, it means there is something behind the scenes that we do not know.
Sabotage.
You may say there is a saboteur. You may say that somebody gave away the position of this general. Would arming Nigerians have solved that problem? No. We have to arrest these people. We have to prosecute them, and they have to be seen as being punished by the law.
There was a statement still made by Dr. David concerning arm carrying Fulanese. I just want to understand, is there a lacuna in the law that allows for these headsmen to
bear arms?
Absolutely not. I mean, no Nigerian should be able to have and carry AK-47.
Not even for hunting?
Not at all. Not at all. You may have a license from the Inspector General of the Republic, also through the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to carry guns for the purpose of hunting, and it's going to be den guns, not AK-47. AK-47 is not permitted anywhere in the law. We don't need new laws on the book in the Federation of Nigeria to be able to arrest and prosecute these people. We don't need the president to come out and say, go ahead and arrest and prosecute these people. There are sufficient laws. We have the Inspector General of Police. He is empowered to do so. We have the Assistant Inspector General of Police, who are in charge of multiple states. They're empowered to do so. We have the Commissioner of Police. He's empowered to do so. Anywhere you do see anyone, whether he is Fulani, whether he is Berom, whether he is from Ibionibom, wherever he might be from, arrest the person and prosecute the person. The problem is it's not being done. We did talk about the former President Buhari saying, if you see anyone with AK-47 in the bush, go ahead and shoot them. Well, after he said that, how many people were shot? How many people were arrested? How many people were prosecuted in this instance? Zero. Well, I can't say zero, but I don't remember any prosecution of anyone, Fulani included, for carrying weapons in the bush.
Dr. David, are you there?
Guys, I can't hear you, and it would be good to be able to follow the discussion in the studio, but I'm just sitting here. I don't know what is happening.
Okay, so now a couple of questions were thrown at him. The advocacy by some persons that Nigerians should be allowed to bear arms in the wake of rising insecurity, perhaps to defend themselves. And I played out a term, which I'm sure as a security expert you're familiar with. That is the MAD acronym, Mutually Assured Destruction. The argument that some people are putting up is if you allow some Nigerians in the wake of rising insecurity to bear arms, perhaps they'll be able to defend themselves. What do you think about this?
If the military cannot defend themselves against Fulani militia, if the Fulani militia have the environment, you license people to bear arms. Insane environment. And there are qualifications. There are very stringent qualifications people need to fulfill in order to be given license to bear arms. So the solution here, we're not even talking about bearing arms. We are talking about arms in the hand of criminals. Arms, look, that a bandit has PKT. PKT can kill at 4 kilometers away from where you are standing. Those are high caliber military equipment that these criminals have. So it's not even an issue of saying allow everybody to bear arms. How can you allow everybody to bear arms in Nigeria the way it is today? You're going to have a massive crisis you cannot control.
Let's talk, Dr. David, let's talk about recruitment. One thing that we are talking about at the moment, I'd like for you to speak to this quickly, vis-a-vis the call by the Senate that kidnapping should be attracting capital punishment. I'll also like to get your thoughts on that. But let's talk about recruitment. At this juncture, how much do you think we need to fight this insecurity? And with a country that is over 240 million people?
See, okay, well, there are so many issues. So I'll pass them one after the other. So we agree that arm bearing or licensing arm is not Nigeria's solution. It's not solution. In fact, it's to take back the arms that are in private hand as at this moment. Take back all the arms that are out there and make sure that arms are allowed only in the hands of those who are qualified to bear those arms. That's number one. Number two is, you said the Senate say what?
The issue of the Senate saying that negotiation should be forbidden and that kidnapping should now attract capital punishment.
The issue with that is that you cannot ask people not to negotiate when you yourself don't have capacity to go and rescue their victims of kidnapping. You cannot ask the family. Look, if the police was up to speed to say anybody that is kidnapped anywhere in Nigeria, the military and the police have the capacity to release them. We can now say, okay, don't negotiate. But now they pick your person. There is nobody that is going to help you to rescue them. The only thing that is available is for you to pay the bandits in order for them to go. You have to negotiate. You have to go and beg them and pay. Negotiate and pay, because the other option is that they will all die in captivity. But if we have the capacity, the Nigeria police, Nigeria army, and other security agencies will demonstrate capacity that anywhere any Nigeria is kidnapped, they will go after the criminals and bring them back, bring those who are kidnapped back. Then we can talk about don't negotiate. But the way it is now, if we don't negotiate, so what's the other option?
Okay. Then the recruitment. I had asked for, I'll ask both of your thoughts on recruitment, because of course one thing, Mr. President had assured before coming into office that the issue of recruitment will be handled. If you recall, one of his campaign promises, he did talk about massive recruitment into the army. Now we're talking recruitment. Now, I want to bring this to you as a security expert before we come to Dr. Mendie. An army general, or should we say somebody at the highest level in the army, was quoted to have said, we recruited about 10,000 and we don't know where they are. That statement has elicited a lot of reactions from social media lately. So when we talk about recruitment, how much are we looking at? 100,000, 200,000 for a population of over 220, 240, or perhaps 250 million?
The idea with if we have 1 million policemen in Nigeria is not too much. If we have 500,000 military men and women in Nigeria, or if we have another 100 another 1 million men in different arms of the military in Nigeria is not too much, because they are talking of a population of over 230 million. You are talking of the land of Nigeria as expansive as it is. You are talking of our ambition to become a $1 trillion economy in the next 10 or so years. So if we put all this in perspective, the quantum of security asset that we need to protect the country, to secure the country, would be enormous. So we don't have anything on the ground. Right now we have only about 380,000 policemen. And out of that, 120,000 were protecting VIPs or anybody who could pay. We have the military. I don't want to call the figures of the military here, but we don't have adequate manpower on the ground. But it's more complex than just manpower. There are saboteurs. There are those who believe that their people should not be killed. There are all sorts of, there are politics, there's big politics.
You have 1 minute remaining.
We do. I'd like to bring that question to Dr. Mendie here. Looking at the talk about recruitment, of what certainty is it with this talk of sabotage? Of what certainty is it that the new intakes will not also further broaden the talk on sabotage?
Well, the talk of sabotage, the very first impact is to demoralize the troops, right? If we are talking about it, then something is happening. And something is happening is backed up by the fact that we are recruiting repentant Boko Haram members and bandits. That makes everyone, at least it should make everyone, uncomfortable. So if we are talking about sabotage, it means something took place with that general that was captured and killed. If we are talking about sabotage, then it means there is a reason for the silence, where we have established that a commander did order his men to withdraw from the school in Maga, in Kebbi State.
The abduction of the 24 schoolgirls.
Just 15 minutes to 20 minutes before the terrorists arrived and abducted the girls. Not just the abduction of the girls, but they killed a vice principal, leaving the wife a widow and leaving the children fatherless. We tend to forget about that, right? They injured some other staff as well. They did beat up the mother and almost raped the daughter of the vice principal. So someone withdrew it. We have heard these stories before of the withdrawal of troops before the arrival of terrorists, right? And the killing and the kidnapping by these terrorists being carried out just immediately after the soldiers have been withdrawn. So it's not just the recruitment of soldiers or military personnel. It's not just the recruitment of police officers. We have to, first of all, rid the forces of all people that have been linked before to the bandits and the terrorists, right? We also have to rid the government itself, the executive branch, the legislative branch, and every branch of this government of the sympathizers of Boko Haram. They are all there. We have conversations that touch different people in the government. Look at the former government. What happened with the former government and Pantami, whether he was a Boko Haram sympathizer or he wasn't a Boko Haram sympathizer, we had a groundswell to have him removed from the cabinet. But he survived, and some still allege that he was a Boko Haram sympathizer. We have to clean house first before we are able to face the external
Okay,
force.
we'll just hold on to that thought and we can reconnect with Dr. David. Dr. David, let's get your thoughts on the discussion on capital punishment for these kidnappers and terrorists. Death penalty. We barely even hear of state governors signing and approving of death penalties of some other persons who have already been, the courts have declared that they deserve death penalty. How possible is it that this declaration by Senate will work?
And just to evolve your thoughts on what you were talking about recruitment earlier, and you can match what Jennifer just said with what Senator Adams Oshomole said about how a particular terrorist was in prison for 20 years and some other persons are in prison for life. Go ahead, please. Dr. David. Okay, so we lost Dr. David there. But something very controversial. I just said it to Dr. David before we lost him. Senator Adams Oshiomhole. Dr. David, do we have you back?
Yes.
Okay. Did you catch the question?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I was talking about death penalty, capital punishment. We've had state governors sideline or ignore signing into or agreeing to or approving death penalties for some persons who have
been
already been convicted. But now we're talking of death penalty for kidnappers and terrorists. Is this even possible?
The first question you need to answer is how many terrorists or kidnappers have you arrested before? How many of them? Can you count it? You've had kidnappings, and you have had people being rescued or released or negotiated. How many kidnappers have you arrested? So look, you need to be serious first. You know, all this drama people are talking about does not show anybody's seriousness. You have a massive problem of kidnapping. You have a massive problem of terrorism. How many people have been arrested? Because before you are saying, oh, we do a death penalty and all that, you need to arrest people before now. So we should be serious. Because right now we are not serious, people are just talking. If you make a law death penalty, who are you going to apply it to?
What makes you think they are not serious?
No, because I've just told you how many people have been arrested. How many kidnappers?
Evans was arrested. One man was recently sentenced to 20 years, convicted on acts of terrorism.
No, so we're not talking of terrorism, we are talking about kidnapping. Our problem today is not terrorism. Our problem today is the activity of bandits, who also, you can say, come under terrorism because they do virtually war terrorism. But the point I'm making is that let us stop playing with this thing. Let us agree as a nation to remove politics from all this, what we are doing. Let us remove all this sentiment and ethnicity, because like I said to you, who are you going to apply the death penalty to when you are not even able to arrest? The girls that were arrested, that were kidnapping in Maga, they have been released. Where are the kidnappers? The guys in Kuruku in Kwara State. The people have been released. Where are the kidnappers? No one has been arrested. The people in all other places, look, name for me all the kidnapping cases that are taking place in Nigeria by Fulani headsmen, by Fulani militia. Tell me how many have been arrested. And then you are talking about death penalty. So what are you going to apply death penalty to? So you need to first of all be sure you have capacity to arrest criminals. You need to work on that capacity to arrest, to track them and arrest them. Then you are talking about the means of trial or what kind of legal approach will you adopt. But right now you haven't even arrested. Look, it's not scandalous. We've had mass kidnapping for how many years? Where are the kidnappers? So the question, that's why I like what Trump is doing, my brother. Because they are also asking the same question I'm asking now. These people are killing people all over the years. Where are they? How come government are not able to arrest even 2, 3, 4, 5 kidnappers that are involved in this mass kidnapping? I think we need to get serious. We should forget this. Somebody sits in the comfort of National Assembly, and because of frustration, they don't know what to do. They just speak. Because it's not just a matter of speaking. Where are the kidnappers? You need to have the capacity to arrest them, to bring them to justice. Before you now begin to ask yourself, is the justice system adequate to punish them for the offense they have committed?
Dr. David, you just said something now, and I want to bring a legal angle to it, and this is why I come to Dr. Mendie. Listening to Dr. David says, querying all these actions, all these talks without action, he seems to have a problem with the capital punishment for kidnapping. He's been asking all the people that have been doing all these things, where are they? He believes that there's no seriousness to this talk. Do you share the same sentiment?
Well, I don't think he has a problem with capital punishment. He said, look, let's at least arrest and prosecute them. Let's arrest them before we begin to talk about capital punishment when we are not even engaged in the arrest of these individuals, right? So there can be a dual approach. We can establish that, legally kidnappers, banditry, Islamic terrorism, any form of terrorism will attract the death penalty. Death penalty does not necessarily restrain people from carrying out the crimes that they want to carry out, but it actually does help. Gives comfort. It doesn't really deter that much, but it does give comfort to those that that are victims that the other person has paid is the ultimate price, right? The issue now is, just like he has highlighted, no one has been arrested. You talked about events. That's a minor issue. You talked about the
terrorist that was recently sentenced to 20 years.
That is a joke. That's the joke amongst the jokers, right? The issue should be, we don't even know what he was arrested for specifically. We don't even understand the trial that took place. We don't even understand the sentence of 20 years, on what basis that he was given 20 years, right? So to be kind, that's a joke. The issue is these immediate actions of the arrest, of the kidnapping of those young girls in Maga, the rescue, quote unquote, of the girls by the government. There should have been a commensurate action of parading those kidnappers. It should have brought down the tension in the country. The government has been able to arrest the kidnappers, and then we are going to go ahead and prosecute them. The same should have happened in the CSC church invasion, right?
In Eruku.
In Eruku, 3 people died in that instance. You can see there were some elderly women that were struggling to run away from the bullets. And I took time to look at the video of those that were rescued. I didn't see the elderly women. So they probably lost their lives in that process. So who has been arrested? No one. Who has been prosecuted? No one. Have we been able to pacify, that is, dominate that area that was inhabited by these kidnappers, Islamic terrorists, these bandits? Have we been able to do so? Nothing like that. So simple, a negotiation, release, whatever was given to the kidnappers, I'm not aware of, but they did come out and say, the kidnappers did come out and say in the video that there was no rescue, that they released.
Well, they could be doing propaganda.
Well, they could be, but that is a bigger problem. Let me just land here. They are now bigger rock stars than even Burna Boy. Are giving
their social media accounts.
Yes, I mean, millions of followers, and we can't trace them. I cannot buy 2 SIM cards within a month in the Federation of Nigeria. But kidnappers are able to buy any manner of SIM cards that they want, and are able to buy data, and are able to stay online when most Nigerians cannot afford data. So how are they being financed? So something is happening. These are social media.
Dr. David, let me ask you, before we let you go, as we conclude this session here, what approach at this juncture is best? We've heard of kinetic, non-kinetic. With the rising insecurity in the country, as an expert, what would you prefer?
Sorry, I didn't hear your question well.
My question is, what approach at this juncture will be appropriate? Because we're hearing of kinetic and non-kinetic approach to dealing with the issue. Which is solutionable at this juncture as an expert?
Okay, but I just told you that the meaning they call kinetic is to use the force of arm to address an issue. Kinetic, to use the force of arm, to use weapons, maximum
force
to achieve an objective. Which aircraft you use, bombers, you use the military, you use such equipment. Non-kinetic means to do opposite. But the destination of the people who are pushing the narrative of non-kinetic in Nigeria, they are saying, don't touch these people. Give them money. Beg them. Give them food. Give them women. Give them bikes. Give them all that they need. You know, that is what they call non-kinetic. What this does mean, it encourages more criminality, because if you see that the next person was rewarded for kidnapping, you go into it now. If you see that this guy yesterday was a poor man, today kidnapper come back, government are making well, you go into it. When you see that kidnappers and bandits are people that government bring close and celebrate and felicitate with and associate with and bow before, you too want to go into it, and then you are further empowering them to even do more, to buy more equipment, to recruit more, to have more logistics, to have more bikes. All these is the wrong approach. The right approach is to take steps to degrade these guys. Use the force of the state. Nigeria is a state. Nigeria is a country. Use the force of the country to crush these criminals. And then they will not be the one calling for negotiation, and you will determine whether you want to negotiate or not. It's not you going to beg them to negotiate at their seat. It doesn't happen anywhere. You are turning logic on its head. So like I said, there are two things we need to do immediately. Number one, government must ban open grazing nationwide. Ensure that Fulani herdsmen are not able to move from one point of view to the other. That would be the first thing of cutting off the air, cut off the breath of these criminals. The second is to ensure that the arm that they have, they surrender it, or if they don't, you apply maximum pressure. You kill or you take out those people that refuse to surrender their arm because they are willing to continue to fight the state. So you ensure that they don't continue to fight the state by neutralizing them. That is what will bring them to the negotiation table. And when they come to the negotiation table, you then decide, do we want to negotiate or want to apply maximum legal sanction, which you are talking about death penalty. That is when you'll be talking about death penalty. But as it is now, who are you going to death penalty? Who are you going to penalize with death? Because you have not even anybody in your custody. So the point I'm making all this is that, number one, the president must ban open grazing. Nigeria must keep shouting that president ban open grazing if you are really serious. Number two, the president take every step to retreat from these bandits, from this criminal element, from this Fulani headsmen, the fundamentalists, get their house from them, or take it that they are enemies of state and apply state power to degrade them, to crush them. This is what is done anywhere in the world, and Nigeria cannot be a center. That is we want solution. If we don't take these two steps, every other thing you are taking, every other thing you are saying, you are doing is just a waste of time, because the people that are causing the problem are still there. Thank you very much, my brother.
Dr. David, we must thank you at this
very
juncture.
much,
Thank you so much, Dr. David Okorroh there, security expert. Let's come to you as we look to wrap up this thought. I'm talking about approach now. Declaration of a state of emergency on insecurity is an approach. But he did talk about the definition of kinetic and non-kinetic. And we're seeing in the news that non-kinetic approach has been applied these days. Which approach, as a legal practitioner, looking at the legal consequences, would you be recommending?
Well, force.
Force? You seem to align with Dr. David.
Naturally. I mean, come on. It's common sense. Force. When someone has determined in their mind that their sole purpose and goal in life is to kill fellow citizens or the citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you can't go and have a conversation with them. You have to kill them.
This is an unconventional war.
Well,
ideologically based.
Well, then you use unconventional means. I mean, people are losing their lives, ideological or non-ideological. Well, two things are happening. They are killing and they are taking possession of land. So they are displacing people. Can you imagine that 20 years ago, we never ever heard of internally displaced persons or displaced persons in the Federation of Nigeria? But today, we have Nigerians who have not been able to return to their homeland for the last 10 years. That's not possible. And we are inviting these terrorists to come out with their guns, and then we are begging them not to kill people, and then we are giving them food and more arms and money, and then we are glorifying them. See how they drive and ride into town with RPGs on their backs, with AK-47, even with armored personnel carriers, and with the uniform of an assistant commissioner of police with the epaulets on there, and they could not be arrested. I mean, come on, we've passed the point of conversation. There is a point where the handshake passes the elbow and it becomes a wrestling match, and you cannot tell the person, leave me. When the person has you in a chokehold, that's not the time to be discussing non-kinetic and kinetic issues with this person. Let's look at what former President Obasanjo said. He's a former head of state. He's a four-star general, right? He said, we are members of the international community, and we have the right to invite others to come in and help us if the government is unwilling or incapable of ending the killing of Nigerians, that we do have the right to invite others to help, that this government must do everything possible to stop the killing of Nigerians. Look, you talk about capacity. Nigerian military is very well trained, one of the best in the world. Look at what we've done in Sarajevo. We were there. In Democratic Republic of Congo, we pacified the people.
Sierra Leone.
In Sudan, we were there. In Sierra Leone, we were there. In Liberia, we've been there. We were frontline nation during the apartheid era.
In South Africa.
Yes, the South Africans from coming up. I mean, look at Equatorial Guinea, when South Africa wanted to establish a naval base in Equatorial Guinea, we were moving full force to Equatorial Guinea to stop that, right? We only had to speak, and Togo would bow down and bend and make sure that elections were in place. So, and what has been attributed to Sani Abacha over the years, whether true or untrue, if something happens in the country that disturbs the balance of power in the country, in terms of security, for more than 24 hours or 48 hours that the government has their hand in it. And we are not saying this government is the one destabilizing the Federation of Nigeria. We are saying that the government is not doing everything it can to stop the destabilization of the Federation of Nigeria. The Nigerian military can overcome. Who are these folks? The Nigerian military can overcome these terrorists. They are nowhere close to the military might of the Nigerian military, but it just takes the political will and the desire to stop this banditry, this Islamic terrorism, and the kidnappings before we will be able to move forward.
Okay,
Dr.
there are
Mendie,
some social media reactions on this particular issue, airing their own concerns and also their opinion. This is from Daybeck, says Atiku is absolutely right. The situation has crossed every red line and Nigerians are tired of mourning children. Another mass abduction in Niger State shows the government has lost control, declaring a state of emergency. Okay, Aquila of Kogi says Nigeria is burning. Schools attacked, churches invaded, girls kidnapped, yet no national address, no urgency. But a state of emergency was declared in Rivers instantly over politics. If terrorists can shoot for 40 minutes and escape, but citizens get tracked for tweets, then the problem is not capacity, it's priority. That's from Aquila. And Leke says, easier said than done. What will the state of emergency do? Will that fight and kill all bandits? It is now the National Assembly should fast-track state policing. Less than 200K security personnel is not adequate for over 200 million. All right. George Waifo says, unfortunately and not surprisingly, all these problems around insecurity in Nigeria was caused by the actions and inactions of corrupt leaders over the years. Yes, I support the declaration of a state of emergency on insecurity and the support for a well-regulated state policing. All right. Starboy K, what is the meaning of all this? There should be a state of emergency on insecurity in this country. This is beginning to look like these terrorists are mocking the Nigeria security architecture. Okay, and let me bring the state policing discussion to you as we just finalize this conversation. What's your thought on state policing at this point?
Well, previously I was
opposed?
for state policing, right? But I'm a little bit more reluctant because it can be easily abused for political purposes. Now, when you look at the states, a state controlled by, let me just say, TTT political party at the governorship level. When it comes to local government elections, have you ever seen opposing political parties win at the local government level? Zero. Zip. It never happens. So we have to be very, very careful that we have proper checks and balances when we actually give the permission for state policing to come into force. His bar in the northern, in some of the northern states,
precisely.
has it been able to stop the criminality in those areas? Not necessarily so. I did hear one of the people that posted the talk about the article being exactly right in his tweet. You have to be right from the beginning and you have to be right consistently. You have to be right where it concerns Deborah Samuel, who was stoned to death and then burnt. You have to be right in condemning that. We cannot afford to selectively condemn in certain things because it satisfies our political desire. We have to condemn everything that is wrong in the Federation of Nigeria.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Dr. Archibong Mendie and Dr. David Okorroh, for joining us for this discussion. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you so very much.
And we'll take a break. When we return, we'll be talking sports. Stay with us.